Saniona välkomna och göra sin presentation. En del av er som har följt Saniona känner till att de har mycket av sin verksamhet, om inte nästan all sin verksamhet i Danmark. Men har ändå på ett framgångsrikt sätt kapitaliserat sig för sina vidare planer i Sverige. Men som ett led i att de har en stark anknytning till Danmark så har de också en dansk ledning. Och vis av erfarenhet från tidigare presentationer med Saniona så brukar det falla bäst ut om Jörgen Dreyer gör sin presentation på engelska. Och det är anledningen till det. So, please Jörgen, the stage is yours.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much to Peter for inviting us to speak here at the Sedermeradagen. We have been in Stockholm several times before, and as Peter said, it usually works best in English, so I'll do that. So, pleased to talk about Saniona, which is a Danish biotech company, and today's presentation will mainly focus on a new compound that we acquired just a couple of weeks ago. It's a compound called tesofensine, and it's for obesity and also for prevention and treatment of diabetes. I'll get back to that, of course. But first, I'll talk a little bit about Saniona. I'll try to do that briefer than usually, because I'll spend some time on the reasons why we acquired tesofensine and also how it works, and end up with a summary. So Saniona is a biotech company that's founded upon many years of research and development and a number of assets that we acquired from the company Neurosearch, which sometime was considered a flagship in European biotech. They had a change in strategy, and I had the opportunity to buy out all the early assets, and now later on also some later stage assets from that company. So, although we are a young company, only started in 2012, we have a very broad experience in the programs and in partnerships with the big pharma companies. An important statement for our work is that we have a low burn rate, but high ambitions. And the low burn rate has to do with that we have already established 3 partnerships, and these partners, they pay essentially all the cost in the company, internal cost in the company, as it stands today. The high ambitions goes with that we really have ambitions to develop all these assets, and we took the first step to internal development by our listing on the Aktietorget just a few months ago, and the ambitions on a more longer term is to go for a small cap OMX. We are focused just on the early stages, research and also early development. And we are very much specialized within a target class that's called ion channel modulators. And I don't have time to go into details about the science behind this, but what I can say is that this is already today a very big market. It's about 10 to 20% of the drugs on the market that are ion channel modulators. And the market for that is estimated at around 21 billion US dollars in 2018. So it's big already today, and we think, as we are considering ourselves leaders in that field, that we would have a nice share of that market. With respect to the disease areas that we're working in, we are more opportunistic, because here we are relying on the interactions, on collaborations with big pharma companies that are very specialized in these diseases and can also bring these compounds to the market and commercialization. So we have programs that address autoimmune diseases, pain, metabolic diseases, and CNS disorders. I mentioned the partnerships. We have already today 3 partnerships, and over the years I've been involved in more than 20 of these kind of partnerships, mainly drug discovery collaborations with the big pharma companies. And already now, 2 years from our start, we have done 3 new of these in our new company. And that's of course based on the excellent science that we do in the ion channel field, and we are considered really leaders in that field. It's a partnership with Pfizer, the biggest pharma company in the world. It's a partnership with Johnson & Johnson, also one of the very big players, and then Biogen. So I have talked about the world-class ion channel team, and I also can say that this team has not only developed the programs that we are working on now, also in the past, but also this has been validated by former pharma collaborations. And a very big investment, 2 to 3 billion Swedish kronor, has gone into that development of the programs and the technology platform. Today we are 18 people just outside Copenhagen. I'll try to go through some of the things that we have already done this year, and I think it has been quite a hectic year. In February we announced the big deal with Pfizer, and already in March we had an announcement that Biogen went into our ataxia program, and together with Atlas Ventures invested $17 million in that program. I'll get back to that. Then the public offering ending up with a listing on the Aktietorget. We raised 17 million Swedish kronor, got around 800 new shareholders, and the money for that was meant to develop 1 or 2 of our internal programs into the clinic. So we could already in July announce that one of these compounds, AN363 for neuropathic pain, was selected as a preclinical development candidate. And also very recently, the 2 other partnerships, we have also announced success in those, both Janssen and the ataxia partnerships. We have been able to prolong based on very good data in the programs. I think one very important, and maybe the most important event over all these months have been the acquisition of tesofensine that I'll talk mostly about today. But just today we also had an announcement out, and that was regarding our preclinical development candidate for neuropathic pain, that we now have selected a partner for the preclinical development that will also share the cost with us. So in the initial term we'll have a lower burn on that one. Just a few words about our current partnerships with Pfizer, with Janssen, and with Ataxian. It's all based on our drug discovery within ion channels, our unique programs there that they're bought into, and they will pay our expenses in the programs, and also they will pay, of course, milestones and royalties up to 52 million in the Pfizer deal, up to 75 million in the Janssen deal. And the last one is a little different. In both of these, there's also royalties involved. In the Ataxian deal was made a little different because that program was actually set out in a different company called Ataxian. And that is now funded by Biogen at Atlas Ventures, as I mentioned, and we have an ownership in that company. And that means that Biogen, when they plan to buy out these assets from the company, they will simply pay us according to our ownership in the company, and that is 14%. So it could be a very, very interesting payout for us in a few years from now. I have here a list of our pipeline as we presented on our webpage, and certainly we are not a one-trick pony. We don't have just one program. We have many programs. If I start a bit from the bottom, there are a number of early research programs. I'll not talk more about that. Then the Pfizer, Biogen, Janssen deals are mentioned, and this is really where we were a few months ago. Since then, we have initiated the internal development of 2 programs, and one, as I said, is in preclinical development, the AN363. The other part are actually programs that are even more advanced and are in the clinic. And I'll just talk about the upper 2 actually, which are both tesofensine, both as monotherapy and then combination therapy. Sorry. So about the product opportunity, market opportunities that comes out of this pipeline, I think it's important to state the first sentence that ion channels in general is a big market. And The obesity market that we are addressing with tesofensine is a market that's just beginning to open up. A new drug from Novo Nordisk is entering the market now, and the projection for that drug is $2.5 billion for that compound alone. The neuropathic pain and the inflammatory bowel disease area, with the two programs that we are developing ourselves, are also very underserved markets today, around $4 billion of each of these. All of the partner programs are considered to be potential blockbusters by our partners, which means a sale of each product of above $1 billion would be the definition of a blockbuster. Now, the next many slides will be on tesofensine, which we consider really a potential game changer, not only for the obese patients that could develop diabetes, but also for Saniona. We were able to acquire the compound just a few weeks ago, and this could bring us to a completely different state, very much closer to the market. We didn't have to pay any upfront payment. We will pay Neurosurge a share of what we get of income from that program. The compound is positioned for partnerships, and we will use the next few months together with our advisors to really make the reprofiling of that compound. Now, why is tesofensine so fantastic? I think this slide actually tells it all. It's about the weight loss that you will see in an obesity trial with different compounds that are already on the market or going to the market very soon. Is there a pointer on this one? Oh, here's the So, as you can see, most of the compounds have a very small effect on obesity, although they have been on the market for some time. The two new compounds going to the market, Contrave and Victoza, show a little higher, but still just around the 5% weight loss, and here is corrected for placebo. Tesofensine, a much higher effect, and this should be seen that this is just a half-a-year study, whereas the others are at least one-year studies. Actually, this particular study that was performed, this phase 2 study, was continued also for a year, but that was as an open-label study, and the weight loss after 1 year was actually up to 15%, so corrected for placebo, about 13%. So a remarkable effect. Yes, this is the problem, the initial problem, because the later problem is, of course, development of diabetes. So we saw a unique weight loss up to 15% after a year, and this is potentially competitive at the same level that you'll see if you do a very drastic operation of bending the stomach, which will lead to serious complications in many patients, and certainly change the life for the rest of your life. So with this medical treatment, you might be able to actually get similar efficacy and potentially prevent the development of type 2 diabetes. The compound has a full tox package, so for that part it's ready for registration. It has been well tolerated in the many studies that have been done so far in obese patients and also in Parkinson's patients and other elderly patients. More than 1,200 has taken the drug so far. And in all these studies, the side effects at the therapeutic level of 0.5 milligram has not been different from placebo. It has been on the same level and the same types. And also, I can say in these obesity studies, there was no more dropout than was seen in the placebo. But there was one thing that was turning up, and that is an increase in heart rate, which may complicate the phase 3 clinical studies and also the regulatory interaction. And that is something that we, in our new reprofiling, will address with a combination product where we actually take away the effect on the heart rate. And that will give us additional 20 years of exclusivity on the product. This is not my slide, it's a slide I've taken from the NIH, talking about the development of obesity in the US over the past 15, 20 years. And it's really dramatic. It's like an epidemic rolling over the US where more and more patients are getting obese, seen by the red color code. But what's also interesting is if you look at the development of diabetes in the same years, it has been equally dramatic. Of course, lagging behind 5 or 10 years, but there's no doubt that the obesity epidemic will be followed by a diabetic epidemic, which is already rolling up now. It has been known for many years, but now it's, the link is actually very clear. I'll talk very brief about the mechanism of action of tesofensine. It works on 3 important transmitters: dopamine, serotonin, and adrenaline. So it's 3 shots in the gun, and it influences various parts in relation to obesity. One is the appetite, and one is simply the craving for food that many obese patients have. You could call it food addiction. It's actually the similar mechanisms that's involved in cocaine addiction and these types. And this can be treated by the dopamine component. And then there is the metabolic drive, simply how much fat do you burn, and also effects on this parameter. This is the actual data from the phase 2 study, from the first phase 2 study done in the obese patients called TIPO1. And it's seen that the placebo patients lost a couple of kilograms after these 24 weeks of treatment. This is what's normally seen, and this is what you can get out of exercise in general in this population. But already at the lowest dose, there was a quite rapid and very nice loss of weight, and at the 2 higher doses, clearly a dramatic loss of weight, and about the same in these 2 groups. So the green one here, 0.5 milligram, we consider now as the therapeutic dose. And if we look more into details with this, what does it actually mean on the individual patient basis? And if we try to superimpose this therapeutic dose on the placebo, you can see that there are actually plenty of the patients that lost more than 20 kilograms of weight. So it's really a dramatic weight loss. But it was not only weight loss, it was also effect on many other parameters, including parameters that are involved in the development of diabetes. It was also seen that it was mainly fat that was lost. It was seen that the belts could take 3 holes more, 10 centimeters here on the sagittal diameter, on the waist circumference. And also many of the parameters here shown here, biomarkers for development of diabetes, turned out statistically significant here at this dose. But there was also the effect on the heart rate I mentioned. So in order to address that effect, we made the clinical rationale that we would combine this with a so-called beta blocker that would take away the effect on the heart rate without compromising the efficacy of the compound. And there's a regulatory rationale for doing this, and that would be that you would have simpler phase 3 studies, simpler regulatory approval of such a product if we diminish the effect on the heart rate. And this has been done many times before. One example is the painkillers called NSAIDs for rheumatoid arthritis, for instance, where you combine that with a proton pump inhibitor, so you will not have the gastric ulcers that is often developed when you chronically treat with these compounds. So combination of a compound that works with something that takes away the side effects is well established. So also from a marketing point of view, we think this could be positioned as a new unique principle. We have actually data to support this, and these are data generated in rat, where we looked at the weight loss in these obese rats, and there we see the same as we do in patients. This is the black one here, a very nice loss of weight in the obese rats. And the 2 others, the green and the blue ones, represent a co-administration with this beta blocker called metoprolol. And you can see the weight loss is certainly not getting smaller, maybe even bigger with that treatment. But what is most interesting is that you can take away the effect on the heart rate and blood pressure. So a little bit more data on the regulatory landscape, the market drivers and situation for the new drugs coming to the market. So obesity is now recognized as a disease in the US from last year, which means that you need to do something about it. And there's more than 2/3 of the population of the US are now overweight, and at least half of these are directly obese. And 1 in 3 Americans are estimated to become diabetics in 2050. This is really scary. So we see the regulatory climate based on this really changing for obesity drugs. It has been difficult to register new drugs. The 2 new drugs are now coming to the market. One is Contrave from Rextin Takeda. It's also a combination product like we see for tesofensine, and then it's Saxenda from Novo Nordisk, which I mentioned before, and where Nordea has an estimate of a peak sale of $2.5 billion US. So just to summarize on tesofensine, we think this will bring us closer to the market, and it's important that we did not pay upfront payment because we still want to maintain a low burn rate. It's more effective than any other compounds tested, and we are initiating now partnering discussions. We have a new patent application that should give additional 20 years of exclusivity and also handle the previous challenges. And we see a huge potential in this indication. Now, I will not leave you just with this one compound. I think I need also to speak about at least one more compound, and that is the compound AN363. It's a GABA compound to be used in neuropathic pain. And neuropathic pain is really a terrible condition. It's often seen when you have damage to the nerves that you will generate a severe pain sensation even if you just touch the skin. And it's very, very difficult to treat today. Today's treatment only works on about half of the patient, and even in those it only gives about 50% reduction in the pain. And you cannot use the general pain drugs. You can use the opiates, morphine, but that is, of course, you cannot do in the long run. So really these patients are suffering. We have developed a new principle where we actually go in and interfere with the pain regulation center in the spinal cord. We simply turn down on that by touching the GABA system. And it needs to be very specific subtype selected GABA compounds that gives that effect, otherwise you'll have side effects in the brain. So it is today a big disease, 10 million globally, and it has a market of around $4 billion US based on compounds that are not really originally developed for this, but with antiepileptic or antidepressant compound that's used in this indication. There's big need for new medication. We have a patent until 2029 on that one. I just wanted to show you some data that really illustrates the efficacy of this compound. And this is in a rat that also has developed this neuropathic pain. It lifts the paw here because it actually there's a pain when it touches the floor. And this scale is simply how much weight can you put on this paw before it lifts it. And even a feather on this paw will mean that the animal will lift it. It's just a couple of grams of weight here. That's the black line here. If we treat with our compounds at increasing doses here, it will be less and less sensitive, and it will be completely calm, does not feel this pain, and actually gets back to a level which is very close to the normal level in rats that have not been operated. You can do the same trick with morphine, as I said, but you won't get to a higher level than you did with our compound. I'll just end up by the one slide on the financials, which is just on the results for the first half year, demonstrated that we actually do have a low burn rate. This is from what you could see in the annual report. We just reported the 5 months, but actually if we take the 6 months, we were cash positive. Also, there are data here on the balance sheet, but I think it suffices to say that we have today 18 million Danish kroner or Swedish kroner in the bank. In summary, we are a company with a low burn, but very high ambitions. We think we can generate a lot of value for our shareholders over the next couple of years. We have a very nice foundation, very strong foundation around the company with a world-class team in our field. We have a very broad range of validated programs, and already several of these are running. So we have proven within these 2 years that we can actually execute on this, that we can get partners in that are interested in our programs. The next step in our development, getting more into a clinical company, we have taken after the IPO at Aktietorget, and from that money we have started the first preclinical development, and also now we have very recently got the new asset of tesofensine that we see very nice opportunities in. We got about 800 shareholders at the IPO, and today we are more than 1,000, and I hope that many of you are here today and have enjoyed the ride so far. But we also hope that some of you that might not have joined yet, based on the development in the company, would be interested in looking more into our company. Thank you very much.